work, one whole day to play. Come on, everybody, wear your roller skates today. It's Saturday, 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 it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Career Exploration Saturday. I'm your host, Ebony Tyler. I have real conversations with real people about real jobs. So this week, my guest is Rosnel Dorsainvil. Rosnel is another Midwood Hornet. The Hornets are just coming through. All right now. All right, so Rosnel is currently a high school football coach, and we talk about how he and the team at Erasmus Hall High School changed the landscape of New York State high school football. Rosnel is doing some great work. I'm so proud of him. All right, let's jump right in. Good afternoon. Welcome, Rosnel. Welcome to Career Exploration Saturday. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Rosnel, I've known you for a very long time.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, right? Mm-hmm. So full disclosure, people, me and Rosnel grew up together on the Best Block in Brooklyn, 40th Street. Well, he lived on Avenue I, so he's like
around the corner.
40th adjacent. So, we start all the conversations. Tell us about who 16-year-old Rosnel was. Did he have it all together? Did he know what he wanted to be?
So 16-year-old Rosnel did not know. Well, let me take that back. Yes. As most kids in their teenage years, they think of superstardom. I thought I was going to be this world-famous NFL player. But, obviously that didn't turn out that way. But at that stage in life, the more important things in life at the time were just, sports, friends, girls, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, you were pretty a big deal on Midwood's football team.
Something like that.
Yeah. So what happened? You graduated Midwood, and then what? Did you head?
So what happened was after I graduated Midwood, I was recruited by a lot of schools, but one of the things, which will later on segue into what it is that I'm doing now, is that a lot of kids, especially in the inner city, academically do not meet the criteria, the NCAA criteria to qualify and play collegiate football immediately. So at the time, I had to take the path that a lot of kids, and still presently to this day, still have to take, and that's had to go to junior college. It was actually recommended by another school that was recruiting me. I believe it was West Virginia or North Carolina. One of the coaches that I'd spoken with had told me about this school. So I looked into it. It's Dean College in Franklin, Massachusetts. It's right outside of Foxborough for those Patriot fans. So I went there for 2 years. I played football. It's kind of like a halfway point to kind of get yourself academically acclimated with college, and still have an opportunity to play football, and hopefully, God will have the opportunity to go play at a 4-year institution after that.
So it sounds like you was in the regular program at Midwood, like me.
Yeah, regular degular, yeah.
All right. So what kind of classes did you have to take in junior college?
At Dean, I was a criminal. I was unsure what I wanted to do. There's just like most kids at that age. So when I got there, I just looked at the curriculum, the choices that was available to me, and I just picked what I thought would have been the easiest thing at the time was just a criminal justice major, because at that time I still hadn't really made a decision or come to a conclusion as to what it is I was going to do career-wise. So that was the only thing that just clicked on me immediately, and I just joined in. Like I said, my primary focus there was to play football. And I was already thinking about what 4-year school I was going to go to afterwards. So as far as classes is concerned, took all the your intro maths, your math classes, your basic sciences, pretty much a lot of non-elective classes, But still, it was a college atmosphere. Actually had a really good time at Dean. I made some lifelong friends. But from an academic standpoint, it wasn't, I'm not going to say challenging, but definitely wasn't easy, There were some things, I believe I did have to take a remedial math class because my math skills weren't up to par at the time. But however, that was quick. And then I tested out of it, and I was able to, take other regular math classes and so forth.
I'm a big fan of junior colleges and community college, right? Like for students who are not so great in high school, junior colleges and community colleges can really be, that stepping stone that they need to be able to go to a 4-year school. So can you talk to us a little bit about like, what's it like being an athlete, a student athlete?
Well, being a student athlete, it's a gift and a curse, because you kind of like, for me specifically, I was on scholarship. So it was a gift, meaning that, I didn't have the burdens of my parents I didn't have the burden of my parents having to pay tuition, work, study, and all of that stuff. So I was just kind of there, just living my best life. But, it has some ups and downs, early morning training sessions, sometimes 5 a.m. You got to be in the gym working out, and then you got a whole day of school ahead of you. Practices, of course, after school in afternoons, and then study hall, and then games. So that's pretty much what it was like for me. College football nowadays is big business, and there's that constant debate now is, and I understand why. I understand, should athletes be paid for their name and likeness, because these institutions profit billions of dollars on the backs of student athletes. But it is big business. You're there, you have a structure, you have a structured day, you have a structured outline as far as what it is you're trying to accomplish and moving forward throughout your college career.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that it makes you pretty disciplined in life.
It does. It definitely prepares you, because one of our coaches used to always say, what you do today will determine who you are as an adult moving forward. I mean, we're already adults, but, real life adults,
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely it does prepare you, put you in a structured timeline. You got to be at a certain place at a certain time. And there were repercussions for not being at a specific place on time, where in high school, you could be late to a practice, you could be late to a meeting, and, coach just tell, hey, just be on time, whatever. Well, now when you're in college, you're late for a meeting or practice, there are repercussions for it. I mean, typically it's, you do grass drills, push-ups, sprints, that type of stuff, nothing, they're not hitting you in the pockets, but definitely, it does prepare you for life per se.
Okay. So then you graduated, and then you where'd you head off to then?
So after I did my 2 years at Dean College, I went to Delaware State, HBCU. Shout out to Hornets.
I mean, they are an hour away from UMBS. I mean,
yeah.
But nah, y'all homecomings was lit.
They definitely were. Yeah. So after that, I went to Delaware State. I had several options to go to other universities. I went to visit University of Rhode Island, University of Connecticut, University of Maryland. But those schools, so when you're in junior college, at the time, there's this thing called a predictor where the schools come around in the fall. In the fall, and they want you to enroll in for the spring semester. I fortunately wasn't far ahead in my curriculum enough to graduate early enough to leave in the fall. So my options were limited. I wasn't able to graduate the spring of my my second year at junior college. So, and those scholarships were contingent upon me graduating. But Delaware State stuck by me. They said, you know what, we'll wait for you to graduate in the spring. And, plus my visit to Delaware State had a lot of fun. a lot of fun. So
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of an HBCU, right? Like,
yeah.
they want you, they're going to stick by you, they're going to support you.
Yeah, it was a setup. I went. My host took me to a couple parties. I went to like a sorority party. It was my decision was made right then and there.
So at Dell State, were you still, chasing the NFL dream?
Of course, as everybody is, as everybody there, you kind of like that hope and dream. But sometimes, college life, being a student athlete, you kind of like get caught up. And I had an interesting situation where I found myself on academic probation because not because of academic ability, just not focused in on football. I mean, focusing on other things other than my schoolwork.
Right.
And at the time, that's when PlayStations came out. So me and my dorm quad mates, we'd have PlayStation, we'd have Madden tournaments all day. Next thing you know, you were up till 3 a.m, and then you got 5 a.m. work. You got 6 a.m. workouts. And then no one's trying to go to school after all that. So, you sleep the day away, whatever the case is. But I had a opening experience, awakening when, I found myself below a 2.0. And below a 2.0, you are on academic probation.
Yeah.
And I was in jeopardy of losing my scholarship. So when that came around, as a matter of fact, I was actually ineligible going into my senior year. And so I had to come home and I had to go to actually go to Nassau Community College to take a course, maybe like a month before I had to report back for football camp to become eligible. I was able to do it. And then, the football season came around and I did a complete 360. I winded up being on the dean's list. All right. So I went from academic probation to being on the dean's list in a span of semester or two. So, that kind of the thought of the fear of shit that I had to, I was going to lose my scholarship. I was like, oh, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So I did a complete 3. I went from a 1.9 to a 3.6, in a span in a semester. And I didn't do nothing. All I really did was just, I went to class, I did my homework, and I studied,
Yeah. You applied yourself.
Applied myself pretty much. Yeah.
So I want to ask you a cultural question, right? Because you're Haitian, you're from a Haitian family.
Yeah.
Your parents supported your football.
Yes, of course.
They were big supporters of that. I remember them.
Yeah, well, support in the sense where, they weren't in opposition, anything that I needed. Football can be a costly sport, between cleats, equipment, all that other stuff. You got to pay for camps. In high school, you have to pay for all that stuff, traveling, all that stuff. So yes, they were definitely supportive. And, the prospect of them not having to pay college tuition was, I'm pretty sure, a very big incentive for them as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were definitely supportive.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, like, they didn't try to push you to be something other than what you wanted to follow, which was your passion of football.
No, I mean, growing up in a traditional Haitian household, there are hints, clues as to maybe, do you want to pursue one of the more typical careers? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? But I was fortunate enough that, my parents gave me the free choice to do what it is that I want. And, as you know, I have 3 sisters. And they too had the same option, but we all went to Catholic school, and then we eventually we went to Midwood, and we ultimately made our own choices, made our own decision. But there never was like this, oh, don't play football but do this instead. No, it's kind of like, I'm going, and they kind of got it early enough, that they realized that I could use football as a path or a vehicle to attain what it is that I want in life, if in fact, an NFL career did not happen for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's super special in their parenting to be able to support you in that. So,
Yes.
So where are you now? What you doing now?
So currently right now, I am at Erasmus Hall High School. I am the strength and conditioning coordinator, and I'm also the defensive coordinator at Erasmus High School. So for those New Yorkers, native Brooklyners, Erasmus Hall back, when we were in high school. It was one of the least desirable high schools to attend. Definitely least desirable high schools to attend. And a good friend of mine, Danny Lamberg, he's actually the head coach. And I actually ran into him. As you probably don't remember, I served 2 years in the Army. And when I got back home, I kind of was in this place where I didn't know what to do. And I can't recall where we ran into each other, but we ran into each other and he told me what he was doing. And he said, would you mind? And in the back of my head throughout college, I always knew that I wanted to coach football. And specifically, I remember New York City typically isn't known as a football hotbed. Well, back when I was there, right? And when I got there, I was in school with a lot of kids from Florida, Texas. One kid was actually from California, mostly down south. All schools outside of New York City, and like I said, everyone kind of thought that all these places had better quality football, right? Which in fact was true at the time. And I've always said that these guys aren't better than us; they just have more opportunity than us. They have more facilities. They have better coaching, better personnel around them, better support structure. And it was always a dream of mine to want to be a part of that. So when the opportunity came, Danny presented to me, I was all over it. I was like, hell yeah, I want to be all over it, And that's kind of like that was him and I, that was our dream to bring New York, because he kind of shared the same experience as well too. He went to the University of Maryland and he kind of saw listen, these guys aren't better than us in New York. And, it's just, they have an opportunity. They have good leadership. And so we wanted to be those leaders. We wanted to be those leaders. We wanted to be, the ones to spearhead this movement that we have going on in New York City. So that's kind of where we were. And let's just say, for argument's sake, there were 100 schools in New York City that played football, high school football. Erasmus Hall was 105. I mean, on the bottom of the bottom of under the grave, right? And so people kind of thought we were crazy. How are you going to do it here? They hadn't won games in years. And, we just kind of built it from the ground up to the point now. I humbly say we are the number one high school football program in the state of New York.
Wow.
Yes. To the point where we've gotten a lot of national notoriety. We have a sponsorship by Nike. We're one of 7 schools across the nation that Nike has sponsored. We're talking about teams, Cal Poly in California, a couple of schools in Ohio, Miami, Texas, DeMatha Catholic in Maryland. There's another school I can't recall. There's one in Jersey I can't recall, and to include us.
So let's talk about Erasmus, right? Right, Erasmus is on in the middle of Flatbush. I used to work at that McDonald's right on the corner in the 90s.
Yeah,
it was lit.
Okay.
So let's talk about the students that go to that school. What's the makeup, right? Because you're saying that y'all was at the bottom. New York football New York is not known for their football, right?
No, definitely not.
But it's not like these people are better than us. It's just that they didn't have the resources. So what's the student makeup at Erasmus? Where do these kids come from?
So most of these kids are from so there's 2 stories, right? So most of the student body is comprised of kids that are in or around the Flatbush area, right? Mm-hmm. Typically kids that are somewhat in the middle to lower on the socioeconomic bracket, right? But for us uniquely, specifically, New York has the whole No Child Left Behind situation. So we have a lot of kids that come from other neighborhoods, other boroughs. I mean, we have kids that come from Staten Island, Queens, Bronx, on the border of Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So, they kind of come from everywhere because, they want to be a part of the program. But most of the kids are typically around the Flatbush, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, Brownsville area for the
Right.
most.
So those is black kids, right? Across
Yes.
the diaspora,
Yes.
right?
Well, we've kind of we've broken the barrier. We currently have 2 white kids enrolled in the school.
Oh,
yes.
Wait, in the school or in the program?
For the program, football
program. Okay, right? Because
but they're still in the school. They're still students.
True.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So like you have the entire diaspora of blackness, right? You got Caribbean,
Yes, it's definitely
you got American, you got it all.
Mostly Caribbean American.
Okay, cool. All right. And you've been doing this for what, 20 years?
21 years.
Okay. So what are y'all doing? Like y'all number 1 in football, but where these kids going off to? Like what happened?
So here's the thing, right? For us, it was never about. I mean, it is about football, but it was also about building men, right? And so with success has a blueprint, right? Success has some definitely good results to it. So a lot of our kids have graduated and gone on to colleges and played in major institutions, schools such as Ohio State, Rutgers, Wisconsin. We got a kid going to Texas A&M. What other schools? West Virginia, Boston College, just across Syracuse, across the globe. We got kids going to those major institutions. So one of the things as well that a lot of people, it's not just the fact that these kids have the athletic ability, but it's also getting those kids prepped academically to go off and to go off into these programs. And one of the things that our school, our program has done is putting our kids in a position to succeed academically. We provide a lot of tutoring. We provide an SAT prep course. Our principal was able to land a grant that one of the better SAT prep programs in the country. Our kids were pretty much mandated to attend in the off season in order to help ensure that their success on the SAT boards. But along the way too, we stay on top of our kids. We kind of like to say it's a 3-headed monster. It's us, the football program, or the coaches, the student. Us, the football program, the school, the student himself, and the parents. And if we all work together, majority of times it's a success. But if one is slacking, one is failing, then it's a problem. Back in my day, when I was playing, and no offense to any of these schools, but the big thing, a lot of kids pretty much went to junior colleges, and if they went to like your local universities, your Wagners, your Stony Brooks, those schools. But now to have kids going to Ohio State, we had a kid, he got offered to go to school in Stanford. We've had kids that have been offered by Ivy League school. We currently have a kid on our team that was offered to go play at Yale, Columbia, those types of schools. Before that was unheard of in New York City on a consistent, not to say it didn't happen, but now it's kind of like the norm, that it happens. But it's also, it's moving for other programs as well. It's not just us, but, humbly, I'd like to say we're the ones that kind of started. We were on the vanguard of what's going on now, this movement in New York City.
I'm really proud of you because, Rosnel, we got stories for days. But I'm really proud of you and excited for all that you've accomplished at Erasmus. So any of these kids make it to the NFL?
We currently have one on an NFL roster, Curtis Samuel. He's actually from Brownsville. And he's currently playing for the Carolina Panthers. He went to Ohio State. He was one of our first. Well, no, I'm sorry. Wayne Morgan was our first national guy, but he was the next. Kurt was the second big one. And like I said, he's currently playing for Carolina Panthers. For those of you fantasy football guys, you may want to look at the Curtis Samuel on your roster. He racks up the points. But and he's currently one. We've had a couple others try out, didn't quite make it, but that we had guys been invited to other football, the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Jets, those types of programs. But for the most part, Kurt is the only one right now. But down the line, we have several others that we think have a very, very good possibility of making it to the next level.
That's outstanding. Now, you said that you guys took a holistic approach, right? And building a whole man. So, can you just talk to us a little bit about, like, did your students like, what kind of careers have they pivoted into? Are you still in contact with them? I mean, because you're more than a coach, right? Like, you're also a mentor.
Yeah. So I'm at the age now where there are kids now who are fathers now themselves. I'm typically the reference point. When kids go apply for jobs, they typically put me down as a reference. I've gotten several calls, and I don't mind, co-signing for them. But a lot of our kids, have gone on. We have kids from our program that are in tech. We have one of our kids. He's a programmer for Google. We have several kids that are entrepreneurs. They have their own brand labels and so forth. As a matter of fact, one of our players, our first national guy, Wayne Morgan, he has a apparel company called Lights Out. Shout out to Wayne. He's got, and along with Khalil and a couple other guys, we have a couple of kids, who are in the entertainment industry. No knock to them. They're making their moves. Aspiring rappers and so forth. But a lot of them have transitioned into careers, civil jobs. MTA jobs, Con Ed jobs, healthcare professions, pretty much adulting, real life stuff. And what makes me happy is that, a lot of the lessons and the things that they've learned, from our program, they've transitioned and now use day to day in life, which is very, very satisfying to see them growing up. And a lot of times you'll see kids that, had no guidance, no direction. And one of the things we always say in our program is that you can't save them all, right? You cannot save them all. Some of them are just going to fall to the side, but a lot of them do stay the course, and they're happy for it, and they're happy. They're happy for it. And ultimately, it's very rewarding, very fulfilling, and we stay in contact. We stay in contact with a lot of our kids, and we're always there. We have a thing: once a Dutchman, always a Dutchman. You're a Dutchman for life, and whatever it is that we could do to help, we're there to lend a helping hand. I mean, like, shoot, even in my case, I've even had kids live with me, for short periods of time, just because, that's just how I am. Kids, who've been in financial despair, we've offered assistance. We have a Facebook page for the football program. We're always putting job listings. We're always putting out recommendations. Anything that we could do to help. Sometimes kids will call, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Hey, coach, I got this going on. I got a problem with my girlfriend. In some cases, I've even had to go bail out kids. You know what I'm saying? That's just the reality when you're dealing with certain kids from a certain background. It's kind of hard to get them out of that life. And every now and then, you have to do those things. But, I've seen more than enough do 360s from going from knucklehead to model citizen. And it's a great thing because, in our circle, we had a few knuckleheads in our crew, in our circle growing up. And, some, got left by way, and others, did a 360 themselves. And, fortunately, a lot of times these kids that come from these backgrounds, they don't have positive role models, and more or less positive male role models. A lot of times these kids, it's the local D-boy that they're looking up to. It's the local, trapper, whatever the case is. That's the male in their life, and life's about choices. And those guys made a choice to do things one particular way, and if that's what those kids are seeing, sometimes they need a different approach, a different message from someone else. And eventually, a lot of them they get it. They do get it.
So How has things changed these last 8 months in coronavirus?
Well, coronavirus, no matter what you feel about it, it's here. It's the unfortunate reality of life. We currently do not have a football season. It's funny, like I said on our chat. So, fun fact: we've been to 7 city championships uh, at Erasmus Hall. We've won the last 2 city championships, and yesterday, if we did have a football season, would have been the city championship. We play at Yankee Stadium. Um, we don't have a season right now. There's a possibility we may play in the spring. You know what? I doubt it that it will happen, but we're hopeful. But kids are doing the distance learning now. We really can't interact with them. We cannot have any organized practices, and it's quite unfortunate because there are a lot of kids, that missed their senior year of football. We have a handful of kids, but in a good case, we have a couple of kids now. They're not going to play their senior year, and even if we do play in the spring, they're graduating early. We have one kid, he's going to Texas A&M early. Another kid, he's going to Arizona State early. And we have a couple kids going to a couple local schools. They're graduating early. So, good for them. But, they were stripped of, one more year of playing with their friends in front of their family and so forth. I remember high school football. I'd do anything to go back to play one more season, but we can't have any organized practices. And I understand why. You understand, but it's unfortunate. And the other unfortunate part too, there are a lot of kids that are on the fence, meaning there are those kids that they're juniors going into seniors, and they needed this football season that would determine whether or not they're scholarship kids or not. And we're talking about changing the good fortunes of a kid's family, for the rest of his life. You got to think like, if there's a kid right now, he's on the line and he could either go to University of Massachusetts, Delaware State, whatever program, but, he may not necessarily have the financial means to do so, without, getting a boatload of into debt, with student loans. Well, now he had an opportunity potentially to play football, and you kind of got to use football as a vehicle, right, to get what it is that you need to get a scholarship. And now, some of these kids are not going to have that opportunity. They're not going to get that scholarship. And some of them, they'll probably, they probably go to community college, and just some of them may just say, hey, this isn't for me. I'm going to do something else, whatever the case is, may not have that experience. So COVID, once again, it's here. No matter how you feel about it, it's an unfortunate situation. And I feel bad for a lot of the kids, because they're missing out on an opportunity to better themselves, their families, and their future.
Yeah, this last 8 months has been horrendous.
Yeah, definitely.
But what's next for you?
What's next for me? So we're nearing the end of the line. We're closer to the end than the beginning of our football coaching endeavors. We're currently, myself and a couple partner of mine, we're currently looking to open a sports performance gym, but specifically a gym that's going to cater to athletes and an opportunity. See, not every school in New York City, success has a blueprint, right? Success has patterns, right? And for us, our pattern, our secret sauce is how we train our kids and how we are able to academically prepare our kids. A lot of kids, who don't go to Erasmus, don't have that opportunity that they have at Erasmus, right? And so a lot of times we have kids that reach out to us, they'll get in my DM like, Coach, can you help me get into school? Can you blah, 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 and it's kind of hard to cross the line. Some kids that I do that I have personal relationships with them and their family, from the youth program circuit, from like the Brooklyn Chiefs, the Brooklyn Bombers, all those other programs. So yeah, we'll extend that courtesy. However, there are other kids that are at other high schools. I'm not going to, name many names, but
Yeah.
very other prominent high schools that you would think would not have an issue getting kids academically prepared, but they do. So now, and also when on top of getting them physically prepared to play for the next level, we also want to provide a place where they could academically prepare themselves to get the tutoring that they potentially may not be getting at home or at their schools, and getting them prepared for the SAT. So the big picture is having a facility big enough that can accommodate the sports performance aspect of it, but also the academic aspect as well too. Because I feel like that's important. It doesn't matter how big, how strong, how fast, how quick, how high you jump. You can't pass that SAT. If you can't be academic eligible, it don't matter. There's so many kids, that we've seen over the time. It's not they don't have the ability; they were just not prepared. They didn't have that guidance, and no one, quite frankly, gave a shit. You understand? So for me, that's kind of like the next phase. In my heart, I wanted to be in Brooklyn, but being in Brooklyn, the type of facility I would talk about requires a certain amount of space and dollar amount. So we're in the planning process, we're in the planning phase, and hopefully transition into that sooner rather than later.
Now, is this just for football, or is this for?
No, it's sports performance. It's not just for football. So it's for football players, soccer players, basketball players, lacrosse players, just athletes. Period. Track runners.
Boys and girls.
Of course, boys.
All right. I just want to make sure that this is for everybody.
No, boys. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Once it does open, you're going to get a lot of football players that gravitate to it, but the door is going to be open to everyone. It's going to be open to moms, dads, everyone. Yourself, you can come work out, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. It's going to be open to everybody. But, at the core of it is going to be sports performance and academic mentorship.
All right, Rosnel, final question. Is there any advice that you would give students who are looking to follow their passion to go to the NFL or to the NBA? What would you tell parents who are trying to support their students, but they're like, oh, I know he ain't really that good, but they can't really say that.
So good question. So one of the things that I've noticed in my 20 some odd years of coaching is that there is a direct correlation with the success of the student athlete and the level of involvement at home, parents, right? So most of the kids who have a parent at home or the support at home where, listen, if you gotta get your shit together, those kids typically tend to be more successful. And the kids, now there are some outliers who don't have, they are just self-motivated and it still happens for them. But from a parental standpoint, you don't typically have to be the kind of parent that sits at the computer with them, doing the math, doing all that stuff, because especially like with this new Common Core stuff, I don't know what the hell's going on with that. But be involved, presence matters, asking them, how things are going, just being involved in whatever support you could offer is better than no support. And as far as, kids today, I would like kids to trust a little more. Now, you can't trust everyone, but if you have a coach or a mentor or someone, trust more. Listen to those life lessons that they potentially may have. A lot of times these kids, it's a generation, they want immediate gratification. They want it now. It doesn't open that way. Greg Schiano, who is a friend to the Erasmus High School football program, he's the head coach at Rutgers University. He has a saying, you can't take down a tree with one swing of the axe. You got to continuously chop it down, chop, and it'll eventually fall over, right? So kids, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to go on NFL overnight. There's stages, there's levels, and you just got to continuously chop away. You got to train. You got to have your grades. Football, the percentage of high school football players that make it to the NFL is less than 1%, less than 1%. So the reality is already at the reality is you're already at a disadvantage, right? So someone, you're not always going to be the receiver. You could potentially be an owner. You understand? You could potentially be an agent. You could be a lawyer. You could be a financial planner. You could be a trainer. You could be a doctor. You still be part of football or sports, but just from a different avenue. So yes, you want to be a football player, of course, but there are some kids that, reality hits. You can't be 5'9", 175 pounds, and you're running a 5'1" and think I'm going to be the next star receiver for the New England Patriots. It's probably not going to happen. But you probably can be the next New England Patriot doctor. You could be the next New England Patriot a lawyer. Those things. So listen, chase your dreams. I'm not going to be the one to tell you that you can't, but I'm a realist, but pursue your dreams. Don't let no one tell you can't, but sometimes reality does have to settle in. It's just like, it's probably not going to happen,
Rosnel.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Rosnel. So some takeaways are: success has a blueprint. In high school, football is academic preparedness first and then physical preparedness and training. 2, parent involvement is key for student athletes to take it to the next level. But we already knew that parents was the secret sauce. All right, 3, sports programs should be building future adults. Shout out to E Hall for building men who will be in our community. All right. Thank you, Rosnel, and welcome to the Liberated Success family. Thank you for watching and listening all the way to the end. And if you find our work impactful, informative, and important, show us some love with a donation. Donation links are in my bio on IG, Twitter, and YouTube. And it's the first comment on Facebook. And if you're listening on the podcast, you can donate via listener support. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, follow us on IG, Facebook, and Twitter. We gotta get those numbers up. I'm out here doing things. They want to see I got a presence. Help me out. All right. Wear your mask, wash your hands, physically distance, get that vaccine, and all Black Lives Matter. All right. See you next week.